Hello, family, and welcome to another episode of Role Model Experts Cafe. I'm your host, Dr. L, the Parent Whisperer. And today with me, I have this amazing lady. She's been in our networking events a couple of times. I've seen her on different stages, and I think she is just the right person to be here to be introduced to you guys. So thank you for being here. And Peggy, I wanted to introduce you. Can you actually pronounce your last name so I don't butcher it?
No problem. It's French. It's Ouelette, like it
Ouelette.
has a W at the beginning. Peggy Ouellette.
Perfect. Right, perfect. So Peggy has had some amazing, like whenever she has stepped on the stage and she's talked about what it is she does, it really intrigued me. So I wanted her to come over here and tell you guys a little bit more about her personal story, how she got interested in this topic, and why is this topic important. So without further ado, Peggy, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit about those things.
Sure thing. Hi, Dr. Al. Thank you so much for having me today. It's awesome to be here, and I love being part of your network and your community. So I feel like what my path sort of shifted. So since I've been a kid, I have always had this desire and urge to work with kids. So from being in a large family and being, a babysitter since I was, old enough to be a babysitter. I didn't realize until later on in life that not everyone loves working with kids. I just thought it was a natural tendency for everyone. So my path and my educational path sort of led me down the road of nursing and teaching. And I ended up in child psychiatry, basically. And my first nursing job was working on an inpatient psychiatric unit. And I absolutely fell in love with working one-on-one with patients and families and really making a difference. And so this journey kept me going. And several years ago, I ended up opening my own private practice doing medication management for families. And so from the time I opened my doors, never had any problems having people find me, and lots of referrals and very, very, very busy. And so, one of my passions is also about learning. So I love learning, and I sort of found myself on this path of learning about natural alternatives and learning about functional medicine and really diving deep into what is the root cause of this particular illness. And it's not necessarily something that we're taught in traditional school. But I found myself really, with my curiosity, really lending this information well to my families and sharing these things and talking to them more about the gut microbiome and what are some things that they can do, and looking into studies and how wheat disorders, really contribute to the functioning of the brain. And so I started sort of dreaming up this idea that I wanted to have a more holistic approach for my families. And they were wanting that. They've always, been following me, and they're like, we want more of this. And so I just decided one day, I'm like, I can't justify just prescribing medications, which is really essentially what happens in a psychiatric office. Is you go in, for some people, they go in for 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, they leave with a prescription, and it's have a good day. But that wasn't really working for me anymore. So I closed my practice, my very busy practice, and I created Functional Family Psychiatry. So now I'm doing, instead of prescriptions, I'm working with what I call a whole family approach to psychiatry, and
I
really
love it. I love the
empowering.
name too.
Yeah, empowering the whole, really, because I'm like, people would just bring their child to me and say, Peggy, he's having this problem and this problem and this problem. Well, I learned that the kid is just one aspect of the entire family, and that wasn't cutting it either. And so we could go into this deep dive and run all these tests on little Johnny, but we're going to be missing the whole picture. We're going to be missing what else might be contributing to what else is going on. So I really took me some time to really figure out how am I going to pull this off, because I could see it. I could see what was needed, and the kids really have been telling me for years. They would come in and they'd be like, you're telling me I need to, eat healthier, we'll say. And, yet mom wasn't really eating healthy, and so it's hard to make a whole system change for one person. And so I really had to go back to the drawing board and figure out, how are we going to do this? Because
Right.
little
I
Johnny
love
wasn't
it.
the only one, yeah.
Yeah, your story, it resonates with me very strongly. As you know, you might know this, but I actually left private practice for almost very similar reasons. Wanted to serve in a bigger way, and I also felt that oftentimes the way our healthcare system is set up, you're not really addressing everything. You're just basically saying, "Here, fix this," and that's all there is. A focus. The focus is on what's broken instead of what
That's
actually could be the solution to the whole family
right.
and the wellness, basically. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I actually wanted to mention about this is this concept you mentioned about holistic. And tell me a little bit about what are some of the challenges that, or the frustrations that you see in families when it comes to them coming to you? Because I know that parenting is not easy, and fixing a kid that is not on their developmental path is oftentimes frustrating. So where do people begin? How do they look for answers? Stuff like that. Let's start from there.
Well, it's a great question, because, even now, even though I'm doing this whole family approach, I'll have parents come to me and they're like, you know, still it's fix my kid. And they're really, really frustrated with the kid. And they're like, but she's doing this and she's not doing that. And he's acting like this. And so one of the things that I really start with is shifting that mindset. And it took me a long time to get this in my own family, but we really have to start with the parent's mindset and to identify what's going on with the kid as a reflection of what's going on in the whole family. And so if your kid is having, meltdowns as he's coming in the door, and so you're like, well, what's going on? What happened in school all day? But it's really an opportunity more than anything to really be curious and figure out what's going on with the kiddo, and to see what's going on with you. What messages are you presenting to the child? Are you being, using empathy, and are you listening to what he's trying to tell you? The kid may or may not have great verbal skills. So sometimes our job as parents is to be a good detective and to figure out how to ask the questions and to really, really dig deep into figuring out what's going on with the kid. But 9 times out of 10, Dr. L, there's something going on with the parents. And so when we're stuck in our own place, we are not creating a space of healing for our own kids. So we really have to start with being open to receiving the information that our child is presenting for us. So getting out of the mindset of my child is acting this way to me. It's more like my child is acting this way for me. They're presenting something for me to see. So that's been a big shift for parents. And once they can see it, once they see that there's an opportunity there, it changes everything.
I actually really agree with this, that, oftentimes we look at symptoms and we think that if I can get rid of the symptoms, but the symptoms are actually trying to tell you something.
That's right.
And if you can look at it in that way, that if your kid is misbehaving or behaving in a certain way, I'm not going to even call it misbehaving, that behavior is telling you something. And then that is going to shed light onto what actually is going on and how to properly address the foundational piece, as opposed to let's figure out how to fix the symptom. the behavior, whatever it happens to be. And while
Absolutely.
we're on this topic, actually, let's talk a little bit about medicine and medications, because what we're talking about here is not that like let's forget about medicine. That is important too, but the medicine oftentimes is actually not the fix. It's just something so you can move forward with making progress, basically, some a way for you to communicate and be more constructive in
Yes.
helping your children. And sometimes I find it that just like giving the screen to the kids so that they can quiet down so we could have a quiet meal, it's that doesn't fix the problem. That's kind of like just dampens the situation so that you
Yes.
can have convenience, and there's a cost to convenience, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about what's the role of medicine in helping the kids, and where do parents need to step in, and what do they need to do as far as some of the tips that they can utilize after watching this, going into dealing with their family after this.
Sure. So, some people may come to me because they're on medications and they don't want to be, or they may come to me because they are trying to avoid medications. And that has been honestly the majority of the folks that have come to work with me, and sometimes because of the world and because of media, people are like, I think I need medication based on, a commercial they saw. So, medications can be helpful. And I believe now, and the more that I'm learning about this, in a lot of ways, medication is potentiating the problem and it's making things worse. But what I have done with my clients is I have, said, don't stop taking your medication, and we're going to change the lifestyle, because of what I'm really doing now is working on your food and your environment in a way, and your mindset in a way that replaces the need for medication. And so really digging deep into, the sleep patterns, and what are you consuming? So many people, including medications, have this ability to change the chemistry in our body, and oftentimes can deplete much needed vitamins and minerals that we need.
Right.
So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but you know, it used to be that it was always a medication, and now I'm almost on the opposite end in terms of recommendations and even supplements. So there are a lot of supplements that people like. Amino acids is one that are well known for like things like anxiety, using different types of supplementation. But before I even add supplements and before I do testing, we really start diving into the lifestyle,
Right.
unless somebody is in more of a critical situation. And so I would be more specifically recommending something to that person if they're in a more of an acute state, when they need some relief more quickly. So that would be I would be more likely to recommend something at that point. That makes
Absolutely.
sense.
So
Yeah.
if you were to address, if a parent wanted to address lifestyle, what would be the starting point of lifestyle? Where should they look first? And um, we go from there.
It's a great question. So, I have a whole family approach and a whole home approach. So I start with the fundamentals of, air, food, and water. And really, everybody's in a little bit of a different place, but taking a good history really lends itself to where to start with each family. But in general, and so a lot of us think I'm healthy. I'm a healthy eater. I exercise, but when we really dig deep down, we're not as healthy as we like to think we are. And it's not a judgment against anyone. So one of the first steps that I ask people to do, so it depends on where someone's at, but number one, just starting with reading ingredients. And so um, it's mind-blowing to me. One of the phrases that I say a lot is, if you can't read it, don't eat it. And so, I'll tend to, encourage my kids, because kids are amazing, and they grab onto this stuff and they're on board. And so a lot of times the battle, so to speak, has been with the parents. So the kids, like, I had a kid recently that was like, Peggy, we talked about like decreasing my sugar, but like literally, like, she's showing me all of the food in the house. She's not doing the shopping.
Mhm.
So starting with reading labels is a big one. And so it is mind blowing how many like food dyes and preservatives are actually causing behaviors in somebody. So along with the tracking or reading ingredients, it's tracking the behaviors according to what has just happened.
Right.
So, little kid goes next door and he has a blue drink, and he starts having a meltdown. And so a lot of times people are like, it couldn't possibly be that. Well,
Mhm.
it turns out it is every
It
single
is,
time.
right.
It's so
Right.
really making that relationship to whatever it is you're putting in your body to
Right.
the behaviors. And it's
Yeah.
awesome.
And I love the fact that what you just described is a perfect educational opportunity, because it's not about telling kids do this or don't do that. It's about them seeing that it's like, hey, you see how you feel right now? This is because of what you just had. And
Yeah.
when they start seeing this cause and effect, they start making natural decisions. I'm not going to have that again because that didn't feel good afterwards, or I ended up getting some, negative. I got grounded as a result of it. I don't want that, basically.
That's
So,
that's right.
so
That's right.
exactly, exactly.
It's empowering. And so as
Right.
adults, and so when parents and like people that run through my program, I had a mom a couple days ago. She's like, I had a headache. She hadn't had a headache since she started the program. And I'm like, well, what do you think it's from? And she's like, I had some soup that I ordered from takeout, and I went back through and looked at the ingredients, and sure enough. And so, oh, okay. And this is a lady that was having headaches 5 or 6 days a week. It's just one of the complaints that she had, but she went to from daily headaches to almost none. And so when you have them more in isolation, you can start to pinpoint what is causing this problem that I'm experiencing. you
It's
know
it's amazing once you learn to speak the language of your body and understand what it's
yes.
trying to tell you.
Yes.
You don't look at symptoms and getting rid of symptoms. It's as if somebody's trying to tell you, danger, danger, truck is about to hit you, and you're trying to quiet the warning. Basically, it just doesn't
Yes,
make sense.
yes. And kids eat this up. Kids love this. They are so on board. And so really, in a way, my job has been to get parents on board with this same
Right,
idea,
right.
you
Hence the
know?
parent whisperer. I mean, that's what ended up
Yes,
happening.
yes.
Exactly.
That's exactly
Awesome.
right.
So, Peggy, I know that you have tons of information, expertise. You have a long history of seeing different things in the field. So, how can people learn more about your programs and connect with you and follow you?
Sure. So my website is www.functionalfamilypsychiatry.com. It's kind of a mouthful. And I also have a series on my YouTube channel, which is Functional Family Psychiatry, where people will send in questions, and I really have a lot to give away. I have a lot of information to give away. So I really encourage families to reach out and send me your questions and let me know how I can help. Because I feel like, when one person asks a question, like how many more people will benefit from hearing the answer to that question. So I'm a
Absolutely.
big fan of
Absolutely.
sharing those resources
That's
as
awesome.
much as possible. So
Fantastic.
passionate
Very good.
about helping these families.
Well, I will definitely encourage our family members here to go ahead and check the description box. I'm going to put all the links and all the information from Peggy in there. So do connect, subscribe to Peggy's channel so you get notified. Subscribe to our channel so you can actually get to see all the experts that come here and share their expertise and their gifts as well. Peggy, I also wanted to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. I really appreciate it. Connecting with us, connecting with our audience members. And once again, I want to encourage our parents to role model the behavior of seeking help and connecting to people who have your interest at heart. Because in this world where people are feeling more and more alone, we need to actually show them that we are not alone, that there is plenty of support out there, and we need to be able to reach out to the right type of people for help, for support, for improvement, personal and otherwise. And so definitely connect to Peggy and show your kids that it is okay to reach out for help. That is very important as well. Okay. Peggy, before we finish, any final words for our audience members?
I just want to kind of reflect back on the idea that, if your child is having behaviors, this is an opportunity for you as the parent to do some work and do some reflection. I see a lot of parents that, like I said, they're like, here, help my kid, but they're not recognizing that they themselves could really use the support and getting yourself on board and getting yourself healthy. Everyone benefits in the whole family. It's amazing. I see it working over and over and over again. People are connecting better with their kids. They have those peaceful dinners that you talked about, like it works. So,
Yeah.
take some time and invest in yourself, and your kids are going to benefit from that.
I always say parenting is the best personal development course you can take.
Yes, our kids are teaching us. They're here for us to learn. So sometimes we wake up a little bit sooner, than others, but yes.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you guys. Love and appreciate all of you. Thank you, Peggy. And I look forward to seeing you further in our platforms. Cheers.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have an awesome day.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.